That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Watermelon Woman, the directorial debut of Cheryl Dunye, which premiered at the Berlin Film Festival, where it won the Teddy, which is for the best queer film at every edition of that festival. Yeah.
Is it the director's first feature film?
It was her first feature. And she's only made, I think, 3 other features, has worked almost exclusively in television since 2012.
Cheryl
Dunye.
Cheryl, I enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I did too.
I had never heard of it, and I think because I've seen The Watermelon Man,
Melvin Van Peebles classic with
which I would highly recommend.
Godfrey Cambridge. Yeah, it's not related to that.
No, it's not. But yeah, I can't believe I'd never heard of this movie, and I'm so glad I watched it.
You'd never heard of it before I brought it up?
No.
Okay, I saw this originally in 2006 for a new queer cinema class, where I was introduced to all kinds of things for the first time because, you know, as a kid, where else are you getting access to these? But yeah, I remember being very impressed and kind of also falling in love with what this Cheryl, playing a version of herself, is doing in the film.
Well, my first note is this is a great premise.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed the premise of the film. So the basic story is Cheryl plays a person named Cheryl in the 90s. What year is this film again?
96.
And she works at a video rental store. She's really into film, and we find out...
And they're in Philly.
We find out that she wants to make a documentary about a black actress named Faye Richards, who played a character named the Watermelon Woman.
That was her stage name.
Or that was her stage name. Well, that's how she's credited in this film. So Cheryl has this movie that she's obsessed with because she thinks that Faye Richards, the Watermelon Woman, is attractive because Cheryl is a lesbian. And so the bulk of the film is Cheryl going around trying to interview people to get information about Faye Richards, the Watermelon Woman. So that's the main storyline. And underneath that, Cheryl has met this woman, this white woman named Diana.
Mm-hmm. Played by Guinevere Turner.
Who she's like developing a relationship with. And in the end, they decide to stop seeing each other. And Cheryl says, and now here's the documentary I made about the Watermelon Woman. And so during the end credits, we see all the information she pulled together. It sounds very basic, but I think there's a lot going on. It's very layered. Mm-hmm. But I just thought it was such a creative way to tell the story about this. Because it's not just about this black lesbian living in Philly and dealing with like romance and... I mean, we get stuff about like race relation stuff as it pertains to dealing with the police, romance. We also get sort of the history of like black cinema as told through this fictitious character. Mm-hmm. It was super effective. It is a little crunchy just because it's a first. I mean, well, not because the first film, but you know, the acting's a little.
Sure.
But I think what it lacks in maybe technical and acting ability, it makes up for. And I think really good writing.
Mm-hmm. I really do like all the scenes in the video store. With
it's super charming.
Her friend Tamra, played by Valerie Walker.
And there's an inherent humor I think this person has in their writing that shows. So I really, really enjoyed it.
Yes, and of course, Faye Richards is a made-up character who this film is positing had a... lesbian relationship with this white female director who's also made up, named Martha Page. But there were people like this, like Dorothy Arzner was a lesbian director in the 30s, 40s, who, you know, was obsessed with Joan Crawford, etc. And there were black actresses in the periphery of films then, and of course many of them were not credited. So but this person was made up, and this legacy, this kind of rich legacy painted for this Faye Richards person is very elaborate. And what's kind of devastating about it is this Cheryl Dunye had to make this up, had to make this history up, because if it did exist, it's been erased. Mm. And how she is crediting this made-up person as giving her hope and inspiration, knowing that she herself would be that for someone years later. I don't know, that it's just so layered and complex and really interesting. And sad, because there's nothing, as somebody who loves film or literature, there's nothing more exciting than really stumbling on something and pulling at those threads and being opened up to this whole new world. And she had to create this new world because there were no threads to ostensibly pull.
I really like the way the film's edited and constructed because there are chapters, but there are also
locations,
like interludes and complete using some of the. I was super impressed because all of the old footage containing Faye Richards is made up for the film. So a lot of work went into that, and I think it looks really good. And then there are also like random interludes of just like Cheryl or Tamara just being silly, and I think I don't know. You can feel that it probably was. I mean, I know that it was a lot of work for these people to construct this film, but also it seems like they had a lot of fun doing it.
Well,
because there are moments when like people flub their lines and it's kept in the film.
We just keep going, yeah.
And I don't know if that's because of limited resources, but I think it adds to a lot of the charm of the movie.
Yeah, well, the energy, the attitudes of the time. I think specifically with interracial relationships in the lesbian community. It's doing a lot there. Guinevere Turner, who was kind of a notable person in the new queer cinema movement. This is her second film after starring in Rose Trocchi's Go Fish. And she also, I think, wrote the screenplay for Mary Herron's The Notorious Betty Page. But kind of going into how oblivious she is. She's attracted to Cheryl. They have a whole conversation about how she slept with black men, black women, and yet also seems oblivious to Cheryl's. She knows her interest, but kind of needs or having her back, because she sets up. She knows somebody that knew Martha Page. I think Martha Page's sister, and sets up this interview that goes left because the sister doesn't want to hear that Martha was a lesbian, especially with a black woman, and that's kind of what causes them to separate.
There's a funny scene before Cheryl starts dating Diana that she goes on a date with this woman named Yvette. And the minute you see her, you're like, this lady is trouble. And she gets up, they're like at a karaoke bar, and this Yvette lady gets up and sings Loving You in the style of Minnie Riperton. And she's not successful, and it's really funny. Then we get moments where Cheryl is interviewing people on the street, asking them if they know who the Watermelon Woman is, and she confronts this group of three gay black guys, and they think that the Watermelon Woman is Rosie Perez.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny. Then we get an interview where Cheryl is talking to her mother about the Watermelon Woman.
That was good too.
That was really funny.
And there's this older black lesbian that's kind of entertaining as well.
Then there's, at the video store, their boss is like a total asshole, but they hire this new woman, this white woman, and I thought like she was really cute. There's a scene where Cheryl and her friend go to the library because they're trying to get information on Faye Richards, and the library employee is being very dismissive of them and snooty. But did you notice that in line behind them was like this crackhead? I just thought that little touch was so...
The little touch, because we also see that man walk up to the reference desk employee, and he lets out this sigh like, oh.
Like, what could you possibly be looking for at this library?
I also like the video when Cheryl meets Diana and she's trying to give her picks for renting. You know, anytime you see an old video store with VHS, my heart just, I miss it. But she's renting Cleopatra Jones, and Cheryl's recommending Repulsion and Carrie and Aliens. It's like, oh, you have really good taste.
Then they're trying to order, I guess Cheryl and her friend working at the video store, like when they try to order titles they shouldn't, they put them under other people's names. And they put a pornographic film called Bald Black Ballbusters on someone's list. I thought that was
Diana's
really cute.
account.
Then I thought like that this movie feels very bold because a movie about a black lesbian, and then there's this interracial sex scene. It feels very bold. Camille Paglia's in the film giving an interview, and that lady she has a lot to say.
I love Camille Paglia, who I've read several things by her, and reading her is also like listening to her speak. It's a lot, and sometimes it's like Jennifer Lewis. It's like, oh, I really need you in small doses, but I'm very intensely interested in you. It has a lot of good points, but it speaks in such rapid fire succession that it's overwhelming.
Well,
but I think getting her in this film in 1996, that's a big get.
The moment where Cheryl's new little white girlfriend Diana meets Tamara and her girlfriend for dinner, and they're so stank towards her. I thought I thought that was a very good scene. Then Cheryl gets access to the Center for Lesbian Info and Technology, which their acronym is CLIT, which I thought was funny. And they go there trying to get information on Faye Richards.
And it's just totally disorganized.
There's a scene where Cheryl is at, I forget whose house she is when the police confront her. And they're being very, disrespectful towards her.
She's trying to get access to something.
She's somewhere she belongs. She's just on the street at this building, this structure, and I believe she had an appointment there or something, but the police confront her, what are you doing here? They mistake her as a boy. They even, lift up her shirt to see if she has breasts. And the police says, you look like a boy, you little crackhead freak. Oh my God.
It's disturbing, but also the way it plays out is kind of... She finds a way to make that kind of humorous, but... Yeah, that cop just starts lifting up her shirt.
I was very impressed by this film. I would highly recommend it. What would you give it?
I'd give it 3.5, and also check out other things Cheryl's worked on, including in television, Queen Sugar, and just a lot of women have had to do all these stints on television series, which is nothing wrong with that, but this is clearly somebody that I think is also a filmmaker. I do find her 2010 film The Owls entertaining, which is an acronym for Old Wise Lesbian, and she gave Yolanda Ross her first big break with the 2001 television film that is very good called Stranger Inside.
I would give this film 3.5 out of 5. Anything else?
No.
Hit the thanks button, listen to our podcast. Bye.